Talking with the experts.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. My name is Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com, and today my guest is Julian Roberts, and Julian is from the UK, owns Julian Roberts Consulting Limited, and his topic today is a resilient culture is a competitive advantage. Welcome, Julian. How are you today?
Welcome, Rose. Nice to meet you. Yes, no, I'm very well. Thank you very much.
Very good. I love your background.
Yes, that's a picture I've taken. I live by the coast in the UK, and that's literally about 10 minutes away. I took it back about 6 months ago. So, yeah.
It's lovely. Yeah, I didn't think they had
Yes.
nice scenery in the UK. Sorry, that was not very nice.
Oh, we're starting the Australian UK battle already, are we?
Well, why not?
Why
Why
not?
not? So, you are an executive and leadership coach with a background in commercial and sales and has a passion for food, business, and people. So, tell me a little bit more about Julian Roberts Consulting.
Julian Roberts Consulting. It was set up 3.5 years ago when I came out of the corporate world. And I went into taking my commercial sort of sales background in leadership. And I started to consult with companies and help them from business strategy. And then in that time, I then realized I suppose more reflecting on the last 20 years, I loved unlocking people's potential in terms of sort of from a coaching perspective. So then I qualified and trained as a coach, qualified as a coach. And then now I have a coaching practice where I coach individuals through organizations. And then I also do training and sort of, consultancy on resilience, which is obviously a thing that we need right now in the kind of sort of climate we are operating in.
Yeah. So why, why do you love working with people? What's the go with it, you know?
Well, people fascinate me really. I've always been fascinated by it, and I enjoyed sales. I enjoyed getting the win and winning new business and growing and hitting all the KPIs. Loved all that. But I started to realize that actually, when I started to sort of become more managerial, more leadership, actually helping other individuals in my team. And I suppose at the time I didn't realize this is often on reflection. I love that process of where people would share their ambitions or share their sort of potential problems or how they're going to navigate or talk to the customer. And for me, then just to facilitate that and empower them really. I'm very much into empowering people. And I got more excited as I started to realize them going off, them getting a win based on our interaction, our facilitation, and then they are then more set up for future things. So I just started to get fascinated with that sort of impartation, empowering sort of way of working, and it was more exhilarating than actually me doing it myself. And then I just love human nature, how people respond, how people interact, whether it's through body language, through what they say, how they say it, posture, a whole thing. And now actually I'm doing a master's in psychology to further, I suppose, get my expertise on it all, but also just my interest in the sort of brain and how it works and why people do things, and just to create a little bit of a logic to it, although there's not always logic to human people, fortunately.
No, human people are a bit different. So you had some limiting beliefs around what you were doing, or your path in life, or what changed, and how did you overcome those limiting beliefs? What was
What
the
changed really? I started to. I was sort of in 20 odd years. I was having a challenging role, organization, effectively a toxic environment I was in.
oh
So toxic environments, I always say to people, can make you think and realign yourself for what really matters to you. And it caused me to do that. So this is me looking for the positive in something that was quite horrific, to be honest. So it started to make me soul search, whatever you want to call it. And I say I reflected on the 20 years of what I enjoyed, and I was starting to fall out of love what I was doing. And obviously the situation wasn't helping. But also my wife and I were in that process of looking to foster a child. And so we wanted to create a working environment that was more flexible, more adaptable, which was the impetus to go on my own and start to become a consultant and then ultimately a coach. So that was what the moment was. So at the time, I suppose the limiting belief at the time was always this, always being in employment, always waiting for the paycheck at the end of the month. And that's how it's always been. And then I realized that's not the case, doesn't have to be the case. And I sort of reframed it. And then I made that step. And, it is a brave step, however you deem it, from wherever you are. It is a brave step going from that 20 years of always been paid, so to speak. And not that you don't work for it, but it's different when you're then actually now, for the last 3.5 years, I've had to provide my own income and my own business strategy, as you know how it is. So it's very different, but has made me more adaptable, flexible in terms of, fostering a child, which we did last year. So that was the premise of it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting to I guess find out what these limiting beliefs are that that either people have, or each of us as individuals have within ourselves. And I know I still have some challenges with my own limiting beliefs, and and I think I don't know that they, even though you try to work through them, I think the lizard brain in you keeps wanting to rear its ugly head and keep telling you that these limiting beliefs need to stay with you, or try to make you go back to where they were, or where you were as a person before you found out you had these limiting beliefs that you wanted to change. So how do you think that people can work through those without stepping backwards into old habits?
Yeah, and it is a challenge, and obviously I deal a lot with it in terms of when I'm coaching clients. Limiting beliefs, we don't go and looking for them.
No.
They just because they just pop up, and then suddenly they realize, actually, oh, I can't do that. And so there's elements of things you can do. You can either reframe that particular scenario in terms of how you view it and just get a different perspective on it. And I do a technique in NLP where you do perceptual positioning and create different perspectives on whether you call it a challenge problem. You can use it as a conflict as well. And so you just get a different angle on things, because limiting beliefs are just a perspective, and you just need to change that perspective. Because I could look at you and think, Rose, I've got no issue with you achieving what your dream is. You're capable. You've got success in your history. You've got energy. I can see that. But from your perspective, you don't. You see this little blocker of something. And so by changing the perspective, whether that's on yourself, then you suddenly go, I see it. I can do that because of, and then you start to unblock it. And so there's one way of doing it. There's other ways of just visualizing the narrative of the future, in terms of, I've often told people at this time of COVID to say, go out 12 months or 2 years, and rather than thinking, oh, the world's all doom and gloom and difficulty, what story do you want to tell your friends and family in 2 years' time of how you managed to navigate the challenges that you're currently facing? And it just creates a real positive mindset, a thriving mindset, and a place of, well, I want to say that I gained success. I I overcame this, and suddenly you start playing out a narrative. And when you start playing out narratives, we start living those narratives. The challenge is obviously sometimes we play a narrative that's not terribly positive, and it's a historical narrative. Because I believe if you've got an ambition or a goal, we can deliver on that, and I can help facilitate that. But what has changed right now is just the how bit, isn't it? The fact that the way you were doing it before, and you might have had a dream of whatever that is, and you go, oh, I can't do it now. Well, no, it's still valid. It's just the way you go about it, and plus the timing may have changed. And it's just doing some reframing, different perspectives, and that's some of the ways I help my clients create that, overcoming those limiting beliefs.
Yeah, mindset or mind shift even is becoming more and more of the things that are being brought out by coaches and counsellors and whatever. It's not a word that is more commonly used, I guess, to get people to change the way that they actually think. Becoming more common practice, I think, than it was, even 2 years ago. I'd never heard of mind shift or mindset, used in the ways that it's now used. So yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I've got a couple of friends that coach in NLP and train people in NLP and hypnosis, and just the change. I mean, I've had like timeline therapy done on me, and my God, the change in just one session was amazing. So yeah. Was brilliant. So tell me a little bit more about a resilient culture is a competitive advantage in far as being a business owner.
Yeah, I suppose, because resilience, I mean, I define resilience as the human capacity to overcome adversity, challenge, whether that's in a business context or whether it's in a personal context. It translates to both things. And the reason I say that having a resilient culture is a competitive advantage, more than ever before, because we are all facing challenges, but we'll always face challenges. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, there's always going to be challenges. And it's your ability as an organization to be able to take the shock of anything that's not the unexpected, effectively.
Yeah.
And I know we're all experiencing that on a grander scale, but still, if you've got a resilience culture and people who've got the skill of resilience, they will help navigate that and create that agility and that an approach. And that's the important thing is to understand that resilience is a skill, and not just because often people think, oh, they're resilient, and oh, they're resilient, or they're not very resilient. Now, you may observe that their resilience is, but what it is they are taking the skills of resilience and then using the opportunity of that situation to employ those skills to help navigate it. I have to personally, I have to talk a lot about resilience, and obviously I have to personally in my own business to go, flip, what's going on here? And then I have to go, how do I navigate through this? What are the things I tell people to overcome and to work this through? And so if you create a culture, it's not just about the leader or the business owner, depending if you have staff as well, having a resilient sort of mindset and a skill. It's then having that culture that would then create that mindset and thriving and that looking for the opportunities and not being so thrown by those challenges that they'll be facing over the next 2-3 months or whatever it may be. That's why it's a competitive advantage, because if you're not in that place, you are just going to be firefighting, emotionally distressed and just struggling to navigate and just be in just the now all the time and not looking for any sense of good of what could happen. And so businesses that are like that, and we saw a lot of businesses I talked to just went to ground. They just went into understandably they went into that basically survival mode, and that's not a good place to be. It doesn't help you. We all naturally do it, and we dip in and out of it, but it's get back into that mindset of thriving. And And it's not just about positive thinking, because or that PMA, positive mental attitude, because I don't think it's all about, if I talk positively, then it'll all be fine. And it's not
No, it doesn't
entirely
work
that.
that way.
No, it doesn't work. I think we should be positive, but it's navigating. And I talk about ways of doing that in organizations as well. So I can share those. But yes, that's why I say it is a competitive advantage. It truly is.
Yeah, so do you think resilience, someone is born with resilience, or is it a learned behaviour?
I believe it's a learnt behaviour, and I think your life exposure potentially gives you more opportunities. And some people who've been dealt a difficult life, and you see this amazing resilience of overcoming and achieving and continuing. I believe we all have a choice to make, and whether to be resilient and use the skill of resilience or not. And we've met those people who've had adversity, and they go into that place of, oh, woe is me, and it can be difficult. I'm not diminishing the difficulty. And then you meet those people who are choosing, as in making a choice to press on, and I guess we're all, lesser extent, will be exposed in different ways, but I believe there's a choice we make, and I believe you can learn it. I teach it. I help people get to that place. I've learnt more resilience by what I do. So yeah, definitely a learnt behaviour.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I was just wanting to find out your perspective, because I think, yeah, it is a learned behaviour. I come from a very abusive background, as a child. So I had to learn to be resilient to stay alive, basically. So, yeah. So, and, that's done me, it's done me well. I mean, I'm still alive, and I could have chosen, as you say, to do other things with my life when I didn't. So, yeah. So, I know that we're living in very uncertain times at the moment, and no one's got any idea when this is all going to end. But what can people do, business owners or otherwise, do to build up their resilience through this time at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things we can do. One thing I talk about a lot, whether it's personally or corporately, is to get back to your purpose, get back to your mission, or even know your purpose and mission. There's a lot of people out there who haven't got a clue,
Yes.
which is fine. Is gain clarity on that mission, on that purpose. Well, that's an individual perspective, because that's a real guiding light. It's your GPS. It's your thing you're shooting for, and ultimately that doesn't really change. In terms of, in the context, it might be a little modification, and by doing that, it's like climbing a mountain. Your goal or your mission or your purpose is to climb a mountain, and there's got really bad weather, some hurricanes have come, but you're still climbing the mountain. And so that keeps you that sense of purpose. It gives you energy, it gives you motivation, gives you ways of, okay, on this journey, I'm climbing the mountain. Oh no, there's a boulder in the way. There's a COVID-19 challenge. Okay, rather than going, oh, give up, doomed, and just walk back down. No, our purpose is still to do this. And it's still being realistic. You're still rooted in the reality. We've got this massive boulder. And then the great thing about that, certainly within organization, is to work as a team to say, okay, this is our purpose. We've got this massive challenge, this difficulty in front of us. How do we work together? And it creates opportunities to collaborate, to be creative, allow people to share a bit more. And you know what? Through that, you get a real galvanized team. And then you say, okay, somebody's found a new route, or somebody started to cut through a new route around this boulder, or somebody's built a ladder to get over it, whatever the metaphor you want to use. and through that process, not only do you overcome, not only do you work well as a team, because I think it's a real good way of working as a team, you'll learn things about each other, and you'll also learn from different perspectives. And I talked about perspectives before, from the different way you've approached it. And suddenly you might go, actually, we're seeing this mountain in a different perspective, or we're seeing this client in a different perspective, or this market. Actually, is there some other opportunities? And suddenly, and I'm not being pie in the sky here. This is reality, and I'm working with organizations, I work with individuals on this, and I've done this myself. And it's not just about shifting everything online. It's how you engage with people and how you work with people in that sense. And so that's my big advice, is really get back to that purpose and start to focus on that and use that as a real, I guess, energy driver in this current time, because it really doesn't change. It's just your how. And rather than jumping into the how first, you jump into your purpose and then go back to the how.
Well, it makes perfect sense. It really does. I think people sometimes get it the wrong way around and try to figure out the how before they figure out the why. You know, why they're doing it. And so I don't know. You're right though. You know, you find a boulder, you want to find a way around the bloody boulder. You don't want to, you know, you don't want to just stop and because there's a boulder in the road. You know, you want to figure out, well, if you want to reach whatever it is, you know, you figure out a plan, go around it.
Yeah, and I think it's having leaders who, which I've talked with a lot of leaders who that I say, do you know what? It's okay to say to people, I don't know. I don't know the answer. And I know some leaders find that uncomfortable because it's like, well, I'm supposed to know the answer because I'm the leader, I'm the owner, or whatever it is. But if you do it in a way of, these are the challenges we have, I'm not entirely sure, but I know in this room, in our team, or on Zoom, whatever it is, how you're facilitating it, I believe we have the answers. And it can create a lot more of a team way of working, and also create a sense of vulnerability, that this guy is being actually more courageous by being vulnerable. You know, he talks about, I don't know if you know, Brené Brown talks about, you know, jumping into the arena and that sense of courage where you actually jump into the arena, stand up, be visible, and you don't know if the outcome's going to be positive or negative, but you're willing to stand and fight and give it a go. And I think, and I've talked to a lot of owners, and I said, you know, this is the time to have a go. Have a go at something. You may find something in your organization you've never done before, or an approach that actually has revolutionized you. And so it's accelerating, I think, innovation. It's accelerating things. You know, the fact that everybody says, oh, we can't work from home, 6-month project, you know, in the UK, it was done in a matter of a weekend.
Yeah.
And people did it. I know it's not ideal. I know people like in human interaction, but it shows that you can do things when there's a sense of purpose about things, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I was having a discussion with another guest during the week about management and leadership, and what makes you, you know, to be a leader to be a manager doesn't make you a leader necessarily. To be a good leader, there are other qualities, and, you know, you've touched on them as, you know, being prepared to be vulnerable and admit that you don't know the answers to absolutely everything, and, you know, to go out and ask your team members, you know, to find out if they know something. And, you know, doesn't mean you have to be the smartest bloody cookie in the jar, really, does it? You know,
not at all.
So yeah. Anyway, Julian, have you got any wise words for us before you leave us?
Wise words.
There's got to be something in that little repertoire of yours.
Well, it all goes, for me, it's about, it's knowing your purpose, having clarity on that. I know it's banging the same drum, but it really is so important. Be yourself, and be willing to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Yep.
Yeah.
And where can people find you, Julian?
I'm quite prolific on LinkedIn, and
I'll have to go and stalk you.
You can go and stalk me. Many people do, I think. And then I have a website, julianrobertsconsulting.com, and you can find everything on there, all my videos and various blogs I do as well.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been quite enlightening, and yeah, I will certainly go and stalk you on LinkedIn and go and check out your web page and see how we go with looking at your videos. I think I'd like to learn a little bit more about you, actually.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rose. I appreciate the conversation. I liked it.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Julian. Thank you so much.